Welcome back right here to First News at 4. I'm sitting with Secretary of State from Georgia, Brad Raffensperger, who's got a series of things on your plate. There's always something going on in Georgia, that's for sure. But the first is this letter I have in my hand that you were talking to, sending this out to Kristi Noem, the Department of Homeland Security. You want to talk about the Taliban issues, well, really the Afghan refugee issues, or what's left behind in Afghanistan after our withdrawal, and the problems that are going on, especially with Afghan Christians to try to get temporary status to come back to the United States.
Correct. These are Afghanis that actually stood beside the U.S. military, during the Afghan war. And then compounding it, they came here with refugee status, but then compounding that is they're Christians. And the Taliban obviously is totally against anything that has to do with Christianity. If we sent them back, they probably would lose their lives. They would face brutality. We don't know what it would be. It wouldn't be good. And so they also stood beside us. And so if we ever have a conflict again and we have locals come alongside of us to help us in our military action, and they see what we've done here, we're not going to get support if we ever have a future action. So I think we need to stand with people that stood with us, risk their lives while our troops were out there in harm's way.
That really is an interesting point, that it's saying, what is that, the ripple effect as it was throughout the entire world, if we say, well, we're going to leave you in this position, and that's what you're afraid of long term, aren't you?
Yes, and then as a Christian, I know that we've been the beacon of freedom for people coming here for religious liberty a long time ago. We had all those kind of wars, religious wars that went on in Europe, and that's why people came to different states, in the United States, looking for just, religious freedom and not being under a state of religion that they had to practice a certain type of denomination. And so that's really ingrained in our DNA for over 250 years.
And you're looking for at least temporary protective status for them right now.
If you could just consider a 90-day look back and really take a look at all the issues, there is some complexity to it. But at the end of the day, these people stood with us, risked their lives for our soldiers who are out there defending America's interest after 9/11.
It's really interesting because then obviously such a complicated issue, as you said, whether it's worldwide or right back here at home, there are going to be people who say, well, what about us? What about our ability here? If we've been in the States ourselves, can't we get temporary status? While we didn't fight the Taliban in this case, don't we deserve this option as well when it comes to immigration and the ability to stay here in the States?
Well, that's why I said it's a complicated issue. That's why a 90-day review to really deep dive it. But I think here, this is an issue that stands on its own merits. They fought alongside with our military, provided information at risk at that time. And then they exited after that. The Biden administration had just an embarrassing withdrawal from Afghanistan. We need to set that aside. That's on the Biden administration. This is really our issue for today. And these people risked their lives for us. And here they are, also Christians, sending them back to an anti-Christian country that's under the Taliban. You know what the Taliban's all about. We all do. There's no secret there. And so that's why I said a 90-day pause, I believe, would be appropriate action.
Is there any sense, though, for Georgians here that we're talking about, when we're talking about a lot of people work on the farms or work on some of these situations, that maybe they deserve something to be really looked at when we're talking about this immigration policy within the United States itself, beyond the religious that you're talking about from that side of things?
Well, that's a deep dive. I come out of the construction industry, and I know that we need to make sure we have skilled labor for that. So does our agricultural community. That's really important for them. And hopefully that Washington will work it together and actually get something that finally makes sense and works for everyone. But thank goodness that the border has been shut down. That out of control immigration that we had, that illegal immigration that Biden administration allowed, up to 3 million people a year were coming across, that's been shut down. We've ended that nonsense, and that's a good thing. So now we need to really do a deep dive and figure out a solution.
Obviously, you've been diving into the election issue, too, when we talk about it, the voting and the necessities for change out there. What are we looking at as we continue on when we're looking at 26 and beyond, when there are a lot of major races coming up?
Well, first off, the president put out an executive order. Top of his list was that he wanted to make sure that only American citizens were voting. And we have great news here in Georgia. I've actually done 2 audits of our voter rolls, one about 3 years ago now, another one last year before the election. Now we do these every year to verify the citizenship of every person that's on the voter list, to make sure only American citizens are on the voter list, so only American citizens vote in our elections. We think that's important. Also in Georgia, we have been Real ID compliant for probably nearly 15 years now. Some states still are not Real ID compliant. I wrote a letter to Congress that we should require Real ID for photo identification, some type of Real ID identification, so before people are put on the voter list and also when they show up to vote. If you vote in Georgia, no matter how you vote, absentee or early or in place, you requires photo ID or photo identification that's Real ID backed. so you can verify that these people are American citizens. That gives people trust in the process.
Well, Secretary Raffensperger, we could talk about this for about 12, 14 hours at a time, but I appreciate you coming in and for fighting for these Afghan refugees, especially here right now. So
Thank you.
Appreciate that so much.